Okay, so while this is kind of kicking in, I'm going to share this on a couple different places on Facebook. Then we'll kind of get into the topics. This is going to be a reading for my Pisces and my water signs. And I'll also answer some people's questions too. Just bear with me for a second while I share this. So just hang on there. And I'll also answer some people's questions. For a second while I share this. And if you would like a question answered or anything like that, feel free to throw it in there while I'm doing all of this. I would also appreciate it if you could share this for me. But it is what it is. Let me share it a couple more places. And then we'll kind of get started with everything. I'm going to share it 2 more places and we'll go. It's a bad thing about not having a whole network of people to help me yet, but we'll get there. Spiritual. We'll do one more. And if you have a question, feel free to ask it right now. I'm just trying to share this. Then we'll get into everything. I don't know. We'll see if that one gets allowed. Okay. So anyhow, we have some free psychic readings today. Hey, what's up there, people? I see a couple people are in the chat. Say hello if you so desire. But the first thing we're going to do is look at my Pisces Suns and Pisces Moons, because it's Pisces season and it's also Pisces Moon today. So the first card they got is the 10 of Pentacles in reverse. The way that I like to think of this card is, I'm going to turn it right side up. 10 of Pentacles in reverse is really getting the reward or getting the benefits of something, but still having to do some more foundational work. So it's like you're going to be getting the benefits, but you're just not there yet. Like there's still a little bit more work that needs to be done before you can really reap it. And as a Pisces sun, I know this is 100% legitimate for me because I've been grinding on so much stuff. And a lot of the rewards haven't come yet, but it's also the ability to have faith that things will work out for myself and for you as well, as long as you kind of stay open to the mindset that it can happen for you. So we're going to move on to a card for the general collective now. And if you want a card, just say something in the chat. Like, I'm here for you guys. I'm just kicking it right now. This is just to kind of get things going while the chat is populated. And this is the Emperor in reverse for the general collective. Emperor in reverse to me typically is somebody that might be a little bit too opinionated, too controlling, and not letting other people really express their truths or get themselves comfortable or confident. It's this state of, what's the word that I'm looking for? Kind of being a tiny tyrant, I guess is the best way to put it. Hey, what's up, Carrie? How you doing? Being a tiny tyrant and not really taking personal responsibility or accountability is the way that I would take this for the general collective. And it's asking you to step out of that space and get more comfortable working with linear leadership, which isn't popular right now. So we're going to move on to another card for my water signs. That would be Pisces Sun and Pisces Moon, even more particular if you don't have any water in your chart. This one is deception. In the oracle cards, I don't really do reversals for it. So the way that I like to look at deception is self-deception more than anything. More often than not, we lie to ourselves about situations. And while other people may deceive us at times, the way that I perceive that is that it happens because we want to be deceived, or because we so consciously work on overlooking what people are showing us And it might come from a good space, but if you're, how do I want to say this? If you're overlooking reality just to be a good person, you're not being a good person, you're being somewhat delusional. So, especially with water signs, it can be incredibly easy for us to get caught up in the fantasy or the illusion or the idealism of situations, and not the tangible reality of stuff. This is asking you to pierce the veil of the illusion and consciously work through all of that so you can see things a little bit more clearly. And if you look at the owl there, the owl is about kind of seeing through the dark. Uh, One other thing that I would say, a couple other things I would say on this, if you notice the yellow there, yellow is relative to sense of self or solar plexus chakra. And this is kind of, we have to learn to put reality over our sense of self in the aspect that we don't let our ideals pollute the way we perceive things. Now we're going to transition on to a card for the general collective. And if anybody here wants a card, feel free to ask. Like, I'm happy to give you a card while I'm hanging out here. The card for the general collective is surrender. So we have this negative association with surrender in our culture. I think that so much of that negative association comes from the standpoint of surrender is weakness, surrender is this, surrender is that. But when you really look at it, Alan Watts had this whole concept of we spend so much energy swimming against the flow of life that we're getting banged up against the rocks and kind of wasting so much energy fighting the natural pool of everything. And surrendering is learning to float with the river and then applying moderate or little force whatsoever to get to where we're naturally going. And it's a lot more appealing and attractive, but it's a lot more difficult to do. So color-wise here, you have the light blue or that blue. I always kind of view lighter blue, which is up here, as communication, throat chakra. That's the sense of learning to surrender to what you're actually feeling and articulating it. And then it's also learning to surrender to other people's opinions, not in the sense that you have to wholeheartedly believe it or agree with them, but allow them to have their opinions and not try to change it. Because so much energy is wasted on trying to get other people to see our side of things. And we do it in very unskillful ways that are exhausting and that actually in the end don't help anybody. And then finally you transition to the darker blue. That's kind of learning to trust your intuition. And honestly, learning to trust your intuition is a process of surrender, because for most of us, we get into this habit of discrediting everything that we think, feel, or whatever. And we're like, oh, that's my imagination. This can't be real. This isn't really happening. Truth be told, the line between intuition and fantasy is fairly thin, but the more that you play with it, the more distinction it begins to develop. And also, if you don't kind of let all of the gunk that's blocking your channel clear out, you don't ever really get to the full benefit of your gifts. And most people want to try to control or consciously purge it, but so much of opening yourself up to this kind of stuff is not trying to resist where you're being pulled. I see there's a couple people in the chat now. Does anybody want a card? If you do, all you literally have to do is ask for a card, say a question, and I'm happy to answer. Let me check the other chat too. Just one from Carrie saying, hey. So, well, if anybody else is watching and they would like some healing, I have this healing sigil there. I've infused it with Reiki energy. All you really have to do is tap into it. Okay, Carrie said she didn't get the first two cards. Yeah, I'm happy to give you a card, Carrie. Do you want a oracle card or do you want a tarot card? There's a little bit of a delay too, so because I'm streaming to multiple platforms at once. Oracle card. Okay, great. So you got rebirth. Obviously, rebirth is about transitioning to a new phase. One of the things that I think a lot of people seem to forget. Good morning, Allison. How are you doing? One of the things that I think that people forget is that rebirth is actually incredibly uncomfortable. It's why this whole brand is called Spiritual Phoenix Studios, because there's a sense of dying and rising from the ashes. But oftentimes we get so buried in our culture with negative feelings, depression, work, clutter. All of these things become pressing down on us, and it's actually this soil that is, if we're able to grow through it, we're able to sprout out of, rekindle. So to me, Carrie, this would just be a sign that although things might be somewhat stressful for you, there's going to be a big transition or a big change happening for you. You're going to be moving forward in a big way. You're going to be healing in a big way. And you're going to be moving to a new phase in your life in a big way. Allison, would you like a card? And would anybody else watching like a card? Honestly, you just have to comment. Tell me Oracle or Tarot card. Happy to give you a card. I just can't do it if you don't know. If you don't ask, rather. And just to recap, so I did 2 cards for my water signs, 2 cards for my general collective. Yeah, I'll pull a card for people while I'm just kicking it here, Allison. I'm on for like 30 minutes, so I'm happy to pull a card for you. But so my water signs, or my Pisces Sun, Pisces Moon, they had the 10 of Pentacles in reverse. This is about getting the rewards of hard work, but having to work a little bit harder before you achieve them. And they're also dealing with some level of self-deception, which can be processed out if you begin to look at things more objectively and not so subjectively. My collective consciousness, they had the Emperor card in reverse, which is this tiny tyrant, is the way that I like to put it. Somebody who doesn't work well with others, who works very hard to push their will or their way on everything. And it generally doesn't work very well, and it's also creates a lack of stability or structure in their life. And then they have surrender. The surrender to this is learning to go with the flow better, get out of your own way, let spirit flow through you, trust your intuition more, and quit trying to control stuff like the tyrant. And now for Allison, we're going to pull a tarot card. You got the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. This is manifestation and prosperity. The reverse aspect of it is kind of like minor frustrations for it. This is one of the cards that doesn't really get severely impacted by a reversal, but it's going to be some frustrations to getting the results that you want, or getting the things, getting the payoff. So it's kind of like this in a sense, but to a higher degree or a higher order. One of the cool things about this card is that it's directly related to the Magician. The Magician is so much about the personal aspect of creation or manifestation. So you can overcome some of the blocks that you're having in creating what you'd like. It's just really a matter of getting out of your own way and putting in the work. Does that make sense, Allison? And anybody else watching, if you would like a card, feel free to ask for one. We're just kind of hanging out right now. Kind of a wonky time to be doing this. I know people are just waking up. But I do see there's 4 people in the chat. I've only read for 2 of you. I guess one of them would be me. So there's time and energy for a couple more people. If not, I'll just keep drawing some cards while we're hanging out. You can ask me more direct questions, too, if you're chilling in the chat. Like, don't worry about bogarting things, because not a lot of people are interacting at this point. I'm happy to have a conversation and give you more direct communication, if that's helpful for you. So we'll push this one off to the side. Okay, so while we're waiting, and if anybody else wants some other questions, feel free to ask. So we have Dream Time come up, and it's interesting. I recently heard a podcast about Dream Time, and I guess my understanding of it was incorrect. But Dream Time, and don't quote me on this, you'd have to do your own research, But the further expression of dream time is kind of the magical realm of reality that we're in. Like, we are in dream time, if I'm not mistaken, and this is learning to take control of that dream time. If you notice the blue patches there, again, blue is relative to throat chakra, so that's communication. Part of communication is listening. The large way that I take this is listening to what nature is trying to tell you, or what the world at large is trying to communicate with you, and learning how to utilize it in a meaningful and successful way. Allison wants to know a little bit more about work and love also, while we're just hanging out here. So for work, you've got the Ten of Wands. Ten of Wands is really about burden and responsibility. So to me, this normally would indicate that you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, underpaid, unsatisfied, and like you're trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, you can't see the card. There we go. It's kind of this reaching for the stars, but understanding you're limited. The way that I would take that is it might be time to look for something different, or to look for a promotion, or to think outside of the box, to really expand your horizons in regards to work, because I don't think where you're at is where you need to be long term. And then as far as love, we'll transition into that for you. You have Six of Wands. So Six of Wands is about self-confidence and progress. The way that I would take this is you're probably getting into a space where you're capable, or more capable, of having healthier relationships, because so much of the relationships that we have are relative to the way that we communicate with ourselves. And if we're in a really a place of low self-esteem, low self-worth, we settle for less than we deserve, then we begin to believe how other people are treating us is what we deserve, and we settle for a bunch of crap, really. We settle for a bunch of empty relationships that aren't satisfying. So this is saying that you're getting into a space where you're more ready to have a meaningful and healthy relationship. But one of the areas where a lot of people mistakenly mess up here is they jump at the gun and start dating, and they see the first relationship that looks somewhat healthy, and they want to put that as their soulmate or their twin flame, or any one of these new age buzzwords that are really good for marketing and for selling people this illusion. In reality, what this means is you're in a better situation to date responsibly, which means entertaining different people and seeing which characteristics or traits you really resonate with in individuals, and then narrowing your choices. But really, dating should be something that happens over a period of a year, 2 years, 3 years, instead of just settling for the first person. It actually needs to be a lot more conscious process than the emotional process that people make it. Not saying you don't need to have emotional chemistry, but that you need to have a little bit more intellectual insight into it. Because so many people connect on relationships, and that's why there's so many dumpster fires of romance anymore. Carrie Ann would like a card for work or career as well. And anybody else watching this, feel free to jump in and ask for a card. I'm really here for you guys. So Carrie Ann, you got the Four of Pentacles in reverse. So Four of Pentacles is typically about stability and security. The reverse aspect of it indicates that things might not be as stable or as secure as they would appear. So Four of Pentacles is a lesser expression of the Emperor. And the way that I would take this is it's more about the stability aspect of the Emperor. Because of management or whoever you might be working with or for, there isn't a lot of structure or stability in them, so it puts everything else at risk. And no matter how hard you would work or put your effort forward, there's always going to be some level of things being in jeopardy there. And one of the things that I would take away just from the imagery of this card in particular, there's a little journal down there. I would sit down and journal through kind of what you're going through with this and see how that connects with you and where you want to go. Because I think a lot of times we stay in jobs and careers and stuff like that out of fear, more so than because it's what we're called to. I can't pay my bills if I do this. I can't do that if I do this. When in reality, if you made a list of what the worst possible thing that could happen to you is, and how much it would alter your life for the rest of your life, versus the benefit of trying something different, and if that was successful, how positively that could impact you for the rest of your life, you would often find that the fear will be less substantial or long-term than the reward would be. Hey, Mary. Yeah, I'm happy to give you a card. Would you like an oracle card or a tarot card? But yeah, Carrie, this is kind of telling me you have some major things to look at within the context of your work. I mean, one thing I would mention, though, too, minor arcana are kind of fleeting and temporary, so they're not incredibly persistent energies, but it's also saying that this would be a good time to evaluate that. We'll get Mary a card, though. I'm going to draw you a tarot card, Mary, and then we'll kind of see if you want an oracle card. Oh, I didn't see Raynell, too. Raylene. Yeah, Raylene, I can give you a card as well. Sorry, I saw Mary's first. I'll get you, though, too. So, Mary, you have the gift card come up. The gift really is all about connecting to your spiritual gift, your purpose, your power, to what makes you unique. And if you look here, there's kind of all these ascended masters. There's this light purple overshade. Purple is relative to kind of the crown chakra, the higher connection. You have a deep, deep purpose. You have a great power, but you have to really dial into it and access it. You have to claim it. And part of claiming it is clearing away the psychic clutter that we've picked up over our lives and clearing out our channels, which isn't necessarily pleasant. And I would not recommend using substances, which a lot of people are mentioning now as like the way to do it. That's microwaving it. You're going to get less results. Okay, now I'm going to grab Raylene, and then so that was Mary. I'll grab Raylene, and then I'm going to do Joanne Marion Jenkins. So, Raylene, you have miracles come up for you. So one of the things about this card that I really, really appreciate is there's this person walking on this frozen river. So a lot of times our miracles are actually going on when it seems like nothing is happening in our life, where it seems like everything's stagnant, frozen, choked up, not progressing. But in reality, that's creating the foundation for good things to happen. I like the tree here too, because there's a very good metaphor I like to mention when this comes up. So right now in United States, it's kind of around springtime. It's that in between winter and when things actually start to bloom again. And while it might look somewhat dead right now, there's actually things growing under the surface. That's kind of how miracles work in a big way, Raylene. So while things might seem somewhat stagnant, unhopeful, not ready to blossom, just continue to have faith and keep your intention there. Good things are on their way. Then we will move to Joanne. Then I'll get you, Teresa. Joanne, you've gotten courage. So one of the cool things that I like about this card is it has all of this green in here. Green's relative to the heart chakra. True courage comes from the heart. There's this kind of fiery thing that's misrepresented as courage, which is actually aggression. Real courage is, though, the ability to not be aggressive or fearful, but still confront difficult situations. And it's saying that you have that, Joanne, and then no matter what you're going through, you have to remember that you have a little bit more power than you might believe, a little bit more strength than you even know at times. And you're going to make it through. One of the other key things up here is there's kind of the full moon and then the new moon or dark of the moon. And the way that I would take this is it's just telling you to have courage and remember that everything is cyclical. So if you're going through a hardship right now, understand that it will pass. It doesn't last forever. Sometimes we get so caught up in this ideation that what we're going through right now is going to be permanent, when in reality it's just like weather in our life. It's just this passing thing, not a stuck phase. I hope that is helpful for you, Joanne. Now we're going to grab Teresa. And if anybody else would like a card while we're sitting here, you're more than welcome to. I did a couple cards earlier for the Pisces Sun and Moon, and then also for the General Collective. I'll do a recap here after I grab Teresa. Teresa, you got balance. So there's two really cool things about this card. So on one, you have the air element represented by the owl. Then you have the water element represented by the mermaid. And that's kind of the ability to balance your emotions with your thoughts so you're not so overwhelmed, but also so you're not kind of like this human robot to where you can be engaged in life but not consumed by it, which is becoming increasingly important in our world. The other thing that I really like about this is both of these creatures would be mobile in those elements. I like the mermaid because it's the ability to really navigate through your emotions in a very deep and meaningful way. And I like the owl because it's the ability to gracefully move through the air or your thoughts in an incredibly potent way. And then it's also the light and the dark. That's kind of getting out of this paradigm of being a light worker, everything's love and light, which is cute and all at the beginning of our journey. But so much of the actual meaningful work is in shadow work and addressing our darkness and seeing it for what it is so we can show up to life in a different way and impact and help people on a deeper level. So you actually have a pretty powerful card there. And this would say that if you're really in this space of balance, you might have a higher calling that you have to reach out and actually help some people with, or it might even go as far as saying that to continue to work on balance, and when you get there, you have a big purpose to help a lot of other people. Does that make sense, Teresa? So we're coming up to the end of the time that I do have for this. If anybody else would like a card in the last little minute or two, feel free to ask me. Or if you like my Facebook page, you can get more information. I'll try to post it when I'm going to be doing these more. I also offer private readings. I even sell crystals and stuff if anybody's ever interested. All that information is on my page. But a recap, for my Pisces Suns and Pisces Moons, you have the 10 of Pentacles in reverse, which means you're going to get some big rewards and some big material satisfaction. Just not yet. You got to keep hustling and grinding and working. And you have to get over the self-deception of saying it's never going to happen, it won't happen, I can't make it happen. Get over yourselves. Look at the objective reality of situations. If you continue to put forth the appropriate amount of effort with patience, eventually things will go your way. It's law of averages. And then that you're a nurse. Very, very cool. I can see how being balanced in that would be helpful because you have to be compassionate but also logical. Then you transition to the General Collective. And for the General Collective, we have the Reverse Emperor. So the Reverse Emperor is kind of this tiny tyrant, lacks stability, tries to control, dictate, and manipulate situations in a very ineffective manner that creates chaos. But then they had Surrender, where surrender is kind of the aspect of like learning to let go of control, quit fighting the stream of reality, and let that energy carry you forward so you can get to your destination with less effort. And then it also is kind of surrendering to your intuition and not second guessing yourself so much so you're able to better help yourself and help other people in a meaningful and substantial way. But anyhow, I think that that's pretty much it for me. I'll give somebody one last little chance to ask for a card. And thanks, everybody. I really appreciate your time. Hope that this was helpful. Seems like it really was. Stay blessed, people, and have a great day. Peace.